ECSI fans, you want to revolutionize your sports investing habits? Allow me to tell you about WagerWire. WagerWire is an app that helps you become a superior bettor by allowing you to sync all your sports books and track all your bets in one place. See your current action, your betting history, and stats. You could also sign up for sports books and collect bonus offers. Follow them at WagerWire on X, as it's the best account on the platform. Head to App Store or Play Store now and search WagerWire and download the app.
Check this out, we got a great show coming your way.
From the ECSI Sports Studios, the #1 sports information program in America, the Breakfast Bankroll, with your host, the sports broker, Jeff Dawson.
Good morning, sports fans from all around the globe. I am the co-host, Jeff Dawson, East Coast Sports Investors, and welcome to Reentry Monday, January 26th. What is it? It's about not that bad out right now. Expecting another anywhere from 1 to 5 inches of snow. I don't know. I've heard 15 inches, 14 inches already. Shout out to Gade Construction and Landscaping, who did the snow plowing in our development. Absolutely amazing. So if you're local and looking for a company, shout out to Gade. Holy moly. As we're clear, but we're expecting a few more inches today. And I guess there's another storm next weekend. So we'll get to that, of course. First and foremost, a shout out to our proud sponsors and partnerships. It's WagerWire. Head on over to Google Play. Download that app. It is free. And, of course, AtlantaSteaksAndSeafood.com. Steaks, seafood, chops, appetizers, wine. Terry's got it all. Head on over to AtlantaSteaksAndSeafood.com. Headliner today. Super Bowl is set. Can MAYE Pats slow down Seahawks? Got a million headlines. You know, I don't want to steal the show, steal the thunder. I'm going to bring Scotty in, get his initial thoughts. I mean, you know, we could talk for hours and hours. I know where the initial critical point will be in the Denver game, which, again, I was screaming at it myself. But I'm going to throw a little caveat into that just to slow that roll down a little. And then last night, I talked for weeks and weeks and weeks. Not only has this Rams defense been leaking oil, but they did something that most teams haven't done in the history, and that's in the middle of the season, fire your special teams coach. And their defense have been leaking oil and oil and oil. I sent my buddy in Montana, RT. Good morning, RT. Their last 8 games, how many points this team's been allowing. And I spoke to anyone that would listen and said, my biggest fear back in the Rams was the special teams, and it bit him in the ass again. But again, there's another bigger story into that as well. So let's bring Scotty in. Good morning, champ.
Hey, man. Good to see you survived your winter wonderland. And, we're on to the Super Bowl now, so that's pretty fun.
Yeah, a million ways to start here. I'll just give everyone the opening number that I see is 4.5 or the 45.5. Currently at the circa. Good morning, Mr. Benson, Mr. Stevens. 5 of the 45.5. Let's start in the Denver and the Pats game. And obviously everyone's going to go to that critical moment. 7-0 Denver, 4th and 1. You got a chip shot, go up 10-0. And your defense have been playing great. May and company hadn't done anything. That's obviously the sticking point, because when you speed it up, The Patriots get the opening kickoff in the third quarter. They hold on to it for like 10 minutes, and then the weather changes, and in the fourth quarter was survival. So, Scotty, there was one little piece of me that said Peyton knew what was coming, therefore 14-0 would have been insurmountable. But I am not applauding what he did for going for it on 4th and 1. As I said, he needed Elway and Terrell Davis in that fourth quarter to win that game, but the stage is yours.
Yeah, I think that the bravado around a backup quarterback cost them. All this crap about this kid's a good quarterback and that just watch him rip it and he's going to go out there and do all this stuff is all, whatever. You know what I mean? He's a backup for a reason. And sure that, maybe he understood the plays and all that stuff. But you saw, I mean, when you got a guy that's, a backup quarterback, hasn't started a game for 3 years and goes out there, he's not going to hit the passes. Maybe in the next, if he were to have this and be the quarterback for the next 4 weeks, his fourth week, he might look pretty good. But my expectation of what he looked like is exactly that. I thought that's Richard Populus. So I thought that he was one of these guys that Sean Payton did the right thing and said, we're going to support him, that kind of thing. But then, I think they threw the ball way too much. The weather conditions got to be atrocious. And to be honest, I don't know that they knew that it was going to be like that. I think all that stuff popped up on them. And on both teams, otherwise they would have played a whole lot different when they had the wind and ball in the first half and in the second half. They would have played a lot different in terms of trying to maximize those possessions. I thought that one of the biggest keys to the game was Sean Payton's ego. I thought he really got to a point where, he wanted this kid to do well on 4th down there, and they should have kicked a field goal. Not that they would have made it because the wind's blowing all over the place, but it wasn't so bad at the beginning. But I thought that was crazy that they went for it, didn't make it, and they put the ball in his hands. Look, both teams in that game played defense to the degree in which the offenses looked ridiculous. Both offenses didn't look good. Drake May didn't look good. He couldn't throw passes. But I will say that the New England found a way to do whatever they needed to do, and it wasn't anything more than ad-lib broken plays that Drake May ran the ball and I think he ran the ball 6 or 7 times and got like 60, 70 yards. So he was one of the best players of the day just doing that. And then, everybody was talking about how good this backup quarterback was. But they didn't tell you how bad he was under pressure. And that came to big time fruition when, they had that turnover there, and theoretically it was a return for a touchdown, but, the referee screwed that up. But they went and scored a touchdown anyway. And, think about it. That on the second drive, that kid completes a pass, and I don't know what the heck was going on with Gonzalez there, but they had completed a pass for 50 yards or whatever, and they go down and score a touchdown. And the only other touchdown in the game was that goofy play where the quarterback, fumbled the ball, reverse pass, whatever you want to call it, and then then the New England went in for 15 yards and scored a touchdown. Those are the only touchdowns. And then you had New England able to make field goals, and the Denver not, even though Denver's got a pretty good kicker. I don't blame it him. The weather's bad. So the decisions that needed to be made and the things that go on about manipulating the clock and ball possessions and field, where the ball is on the field and stuff. That was the priority of the game. And I don't know that, Sean Payton was good there. I don't know that the New England coach was any better. I just think that things worked out where it just worked that way. And I think if both teams had to do that game over again, they would plan it way different. They would do things way different based on the way the wind was blowing and the way that the snow came and the way the second half of the game played out. I think they would do it totally different. All that being said, my opinion is the right team won. I think New England was better in a sense that you're not going to win that game if you're Denver, you're not going to win that game unless you have some sort of strategy advantage. And I didn't think they really had a strategy advantage. They had home field, they had noise, whatever, but I don't think they had a strategy advantage, and I don't think that I didn't think they were going to do well. So then you start thinking about what the heck does that look like matched up against Seattle.
Yeah, and again, we have 2 weeks. I'm not going to beat a dead horse or bronco, no pun intended there. The weather took over. Pats got the opening kickoff in the second half and just marched down the field. I think it was kind of clear how they were going to play the second half. They were going to pound Stevenson, and they were going to make sure that May rolled out when it needed to and use his legs properly and weren't going to put the ball in harm's way. And then they literally had Denver had a 3-and-out, and then they got one play in the to end the third quarter, and the weather had turned late in that third quarter, and you knew going into the fourth quarter alone there that it was going to be miserable. And that fourth quarter, you just throw everything away. The Patriots were just trying to survive at the end. They're like, listen, they're putting into this crosswind. They have a good punter, by the way, and this guy was kicking it 30 yards at best. His last punt was 33 yards, and Romo applauded him. They were kicking it out of bounds. They didn't want a potential big play, and they were like, here, Stidham, you beat us. They knew he couldn't beat them. And as you said, I don't think either team was prepared for how bad that weather got. And it was just a matter of survival. And the funny is that last kick that Denver kicked with Lutz, it got tipped. That guy that tipped the ball was called up from the practice squad Saturday night and to dress and play. And he just went in and put his head up. Richard says you only give up 10 points and lose. Sean Payton was the reason for the loss. 2 different games, first half, second half, weather, great points. I listen, guys. If you've been following me in EC Sports Invest, you've been following Scotty. This is our 11th year. Listen, I dealt with the Patriots. I'm 45 minutes from my backdrop right now. I dealt with 2 decades of Pats Nation, and they're nauseating. They're spoiled. They're entitled. When you had Bill and Tom cooking with Crisco early in the 2000s and put us on the map, you got to remember there was a 9-year drought, Scotty, till the refire. Okay? Let's be honest here. Bill, 3-14. Mayo, 3-14. We knew Vrabel was going to be a good coach. We knew McDaniel was going to help. We knew the surrounding pieces were going to help. This turnaround here, and when I say it this way, it's just, it's mind-blowing. As of October 1st, including the playoffs, the New England Patriots are 15-1 since October 1st. They started September 2-2, 2 home losses, 1 to the Raiders, 1 to the Steelers. Since then, they've lost once. And that was at home in a shootout to Josh Allen and the Buffalo Bills. They are now 9-0 on the road, the only team in the NFL to be undefeated. Are they going to win the Super Bowl? I don't think they are. Can they win the Super Bowl? Of course they can. But again, I applaud it's been a hell of a run. And wait till you see next year's schedule. Holy shit. Buckle up, Pats fans, because this is going to be fun. All right, let's move on. This, we said all along, should have been the Super Bowl. This was the Super Bowl. The two best teams, a mano a mano, the 12th man, Darnold versus Stafford, McVay, the mad scientist. And the two words that I said, Scotty, all along. Good morning, Debbie. Good morning. Great to see you. Special teams, special teams, special teams, special teams. Now, they didn't allow a punt return. They didn't allow a block punt. But you can't muff a punt and just gift wrap. And now you're down 2 scores. So I'm just going to give you your thoughts on the game, and then we'll break down, which I thought ego again. There was absolutely, of course, McVay's supposed to take the 3, go down 1. They had 3 timeouts and the 2-minute warning with 4 minutes to go. But, Scotty, it was a great game. It was an instant classic. Go ahead.
Well, you can't really see my screen behind me here, but this is the breakdown of that game in terms of EPA and where things were and all that stuff. And, I thought at the beginning of the game, I thought it was kind of going like I thought it would. I thought Seattle was going to be a little bit too much for the Rams in terms that the Rams had to really turn up their offense to play better, and their defense was just not strong enough. And Seattle's defense was, my opinion, it's the best. So all of those things going into the game, and I wasn't worried about Darnold. I have kind of lost that narrative after, beating him up all year. And he's kind of come through. I've kind of lost that narrative of him turning the ball over a machine and all that stuff. To be honest, I was more worried about Drake May and fumbles being hit than I was about Sam Darnold. Now, all that being said, you come into this and you go, Matthew Stafford played as best a game as I've seen him play. To be honest, he was really, really good, especially in the second half. He was really, 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 really good. And Sam Darnold, I got to be honest too, he kept firing back. Like there was, I think most teams in the situation is, okay, this game was weird. So I say weird in a sense that Seattle got the lead. Then it was touchdown, field goal, right? And then all of a sudden, I think it was back and forth a little bit, and then all of a sudden they didn't score, and the Rams did score, so the Rams were ahead. And there was like 50 seconds to go until halftime. Well, holy shit! They get a big play to Njigba, and they go down, and they didn't settle for a field goal. They scored a touchdown, so they were ahead. And then they came out in the second half. And I thought, okay, well, they're going to go down here and keep this going. And they didn't. It was 3rd and 20. They got sacked. They ended up having a punt. And then that's when the goofy fumble pump thing, that was the second one, by the way. The first one they got back. But, this one he muffed it, so then they took him out. But the reality is, okay, well, you had a turnover. They go in and they score. And now they're up 11. So it kind of, but look, the Rams answered like boom, boom, boom. In 5 plays or whatever, they're in the end zone. They were throwing the ball 20, 30, 40 yards down the field. And I couldn't believe it because the two things. A, I thought the Rams beat up offensive line, protected that quarterback very well. He wasn't under a lot of pressure in terms of sacks and that kind of stuff. And then B, I thought that they made a lot of big plays. And I wasn't used to seeing Seattle give up a lot of big plays. So I think all that kind of happened. So then you sit there and you go, okay, well, and then Seattle comes right back down the field. Like answer, all the way back and forth. And so I thought it was a game where there was a lot of intestinal fortitude by these quarterbacks. And then I started thinking about, there's 4 minutes to go in the game, maybe a little less than that. I shouldn't say less than that. There's under 5 minutes to go in the game. and McVay's getting a lot of negativity about his decision to go for it on 4th and 4 or whatever it was from the 7-yard line or whatever, because they had to get to the 2-yard line or whatever it was to get a first down. And I started thinking, if he kicks a field goal there and they get down by 1 point, okay, you're down by 1, so you kick off, you hold the other team. You use all your timeouts, and you get the ball back, and now you only got to go down and kick a field goal to win a game. Well, that's a thought. But I guess the way I thought about it at the time was he must not think his defense can stop them. And if you think about what happened, they didn't make it. When did they get the ball back after they didn't make it? 20 seconds to go in the game at their own, I don't know, 8-yard line. That's what happened. They couldn't stop them. And that's so in my mind, I don't mind the decision. Because they would have had to have stopped them at some point and they couldn't. And they were running and then passing a little bit, running. They're trying to chew up the clock and get a first down, and they were able to do all of that. So I thought that game would have played out much different if it was in LA. So I think home field advantage had a lot to do with it. I think those are the two best teams in the NFL. I think that there's no question they're the best two teams in the NFL. And I don't want to be disrespectful to New England or any team in the AFC. I would have said this if Denver won, or I would have said this if Buffalo won, or anybody else. The two best teams in the NFL are played yesterday. Mm-hmm. And I thought they played a pretty epic game. You had one side, I think, get close to 500 yards offense. The other one got 400 yards offense. I think they moved the ball all over the place. I think there were some pretty big plays. I think the playmakers, Nakua had, 10 catches or 11 or something. And Jackson and Smith and Big Bud, or whatever his name is, had all those catches, and they both had over 100 and some yards. I didn't think Seattle missed their running back that they were missing that mad. I thought Walker played a great game. I was very surprised at the Rams being able to do stuff. I thought Devontae Adams had a pretty good second half. I didn't think the first half was very good, but he showed up. So I thought it was kind of interesting. They didn't run the ball that well, the Rams. So they were very pass heavy, and the data shows that. But the data also shows that it's what you do in the red zone, and in the red zone, where is it? Here we go. Let's go find red zone. In the red zone, we have. I'm trying to find it. Red zone. We have definite advantage. There it is. Red zone. LA offense is negative 0.14 EPA, and which is 36th percentile, which is kind of bad. That's in the bottom third of all of it. And then in the red zone for Seattle, 0.50 positive. They're 81st. So they're the top 20% of all the scores. So the red zone was the key to the game, and in my mind, and Seattle was able to execute in the Rams orange. And I get it. There's some other things that, that muff fun. But if you think about it, that was counterbalanced by that stupid taunting penalty, that happened. That was 4th and 12. They're going to punt. And then they gave him a first down. And then the next play, same guy created the penalty for taunting, gets beat for a 30-yard touchdown pass. And then all the players went over and I thought they were going to kill that guy. So it's what it is, football's football. But I thought Seattle had a lot of good bounce back in them. I thought they had a lot of rigidness, and it was that they could have gave up at any time, and so could have the Rams, and then neither one did. So it was good. I thought it was a good game.
The two things that McVay's really getting. There's a time to chase and there's a time not to chase the points. And then, and I don't know the exact touchdown, but it was, again, the last score that they did get when they came right back and scored. Actually, I think it was because they were going to go for 4th and 12. They got the taunt and they scored. McVay didn't go for the 2 there to either cut it to 3. So that was the number 1. And then again, number 2, listen, there comes a time where as a coach, hey, we can't stop them. You get into that shootout and it's just whoever has the ball last. We've seen it with Mahomes versus Allen. We've seen that before. And that's the way that game was going. But the Rams had stopped Seattle. The Rams had the momentum, so they get the taunt and play. They get the touchdown. They went right back at. As soon as the guy got the penalty, he was covering Puka. They get the touchdown. They go for 2 there, which they didn't. They're either down 3 or 5. But in that last drive with 4 minutes to go, I think it was 4:04 to be exact, Scotty, you had a couple plays prior. Now it's 4th and 4 from the 7 or the 8. You got 3 timeouts plus the 2-minute. Okay, you can kick it into the end zone. They start at the 35. If you had a defense that you felt that confident with, hey, if we don't score, you're going to be on the 7. You're going to be 3 and out. We're going to get a short field. I don't think that was the problem. I think McVay, didn't go for the 2, which he should have, to either be 3 or 5. And now he's almost doubling down here, saying, well, fuck, excuse me. He going, I didn't go for 2, so why would I now go for the field goal? Because I had an opportunity where that field goal would have been for the tie if they got the 2-point conversion. I'm going to go for it. I'm not saying his ego got in the way, but it was kind of funny because a couple hours earlier, we were chastising Peyton not to take the 10-0 lead. It wasn't Elway and Terrell Davis in the backfield there. It was Stidham and R.J. Harvey here. So, and it was a throw. I don't know what they were thinking. So if it was me at that point, and I was texting my buddy in Montana, RT, and I'm like, and he's a big Rams fan. I'm like, just take the 3. And he's like, Jeff, he's going to take the 3. And he's like, what? So again, they got to live with it in the offseason. The demise of the Rams the last 8 weeks was the defense and the special teams. And I can guarantee you that's not going to sit well for McVay the rest of this offseason.
Yeah, well, I don't know what the Rams are going to look like next year. Like I think obviously they're going to do some different things to beef up whatever they want to beef up. But is Matthew Stafford even going to play next year? I mean, is he going to retire? Is he done? Does he really want to? What does he want to do? Is he going to be an MVP this year and then ride off on the white horse? I don't know. I don't know the answer to that. So if you remember. I don't think he hardly did anything in going into the season this year. Like he didn't play any preseason games. I don't think he even hardly practiced or nothing because his damn back.
He had the back.
Was like all out of line. So as you and then he goes out and throws 46 touchdowns and I don't know 3 interceptions or whatever. I'm making that up, but it's a big deal. So as he played out, I don't know what they're going to look like. I really don't know. So there's every team has flaws and they have whatever, all this stuff. But I think we'll see kind of where that team ends up and what happens with the Rams. My opinion has been most of the season and then it kind of shifted. My opinion shifted a little bit, but I thought the Rams were the best football team in the NFL for almost all the year. Until they couldn't really get things done. Their defense started falling apart and I noticed it and then, started betting against them that way because the truth of the matter is the reason like Seattle's where they are is because their defense is something else. So then their offense has found a way to get to be productive and be good. They found a way to use Sam Darnold and Njigba catches everything. And that one-handed grab he made and all that stuff. Are you kidding me? The ball hits his hand and it doesn't even move. I was like, it's unbelievable what's going on with these players. And, that's a team, the Seahawks, that if they had a productive tight end, I don't think you could stop them because what are you going to do? They got two guys in the backfield. They got a decent offensive line. They got a super defense, and you got so you can run the ball with two different guys. You got guys on the wideouts you can throw to. A tight end you can throw the ball to. It's just so much. So I think that team's built for success going forward, depending upon how long they keep their defense together and and that kind of stuff. So I was really happy to see a good football game, because not that the game with Denver and New England wasn't a good football game. It was in terms of outcome and score. But that was an offensive nightmare to watch. It was an offensive nightmare. I heard it, and maybe I should have said it and I didn't, but everybody on this Stidham guy, look, I think you're eating crow right now, because everybody was like, he's going to be able to do it. I get it. They covered the spread. I don't think they covered the spread for any other reason than the weather. So if the game would have been I made 4 bets. This is how my weekend went. I made 4 bets, and I'm going to tell you the one I lost first. The one I lost first was I bet New England -3.5. That was the number I got. I bet them -3.5. Obviously, they won by 3. I didn't win that game, but that wasn't my biggest bet. The biggest bet that I made on the weekend, and we talked about this. This isn't something that people don't know. I made these bets. I told them what I bet. But I bet the under, and I bet that as heavy as I could bet it. That was the biggest bet I made. And then I bet New England on the money line, because, and I told this I said this on Friday. I bet them on the money line. They were -220 at ProfitX, and they were -250, 260, 270 everywhere else. Now that said, it came down, but I bet it at 220. So that particular game, I went 2-1 and made some pretty good money in that game. And then the other game, I don't know what everybody was doing, how they could bet or whatever, but I played Seattle on them. I think everybody's going to be -2.5, -3, whatever the number was. I was -1.5 because of ProfitX. So I was able to get a great number, and it was beautiful. And I wasn't worried about kind of the numbers. Now I will say, I was going to be all bent out of shape had they kicked that field goal and lost by 1 point. And I'm like, are you kidding me? I have 1.5 and I lose a half on a one game. What that's what happens. But so in terms of betting, my betting outcomes were good, all that kind of stuff. I was 3-1, made some money this weekend. And now I got 2 weeks to figure out the Super Bowl and figure out Super Bowl props and things like that. I do bet props in the Super Bowl. I haven't given out hardly any props on this show. I don't usually do props, but I do in the Super Bowl just because some of that's pretty fun. And we'll see what that looks like and how the matchups and stuff look. My initial impression about the Super Bowl is that people haven't seen the best offense from New England. The last 2 games, look, they played in Houston. They played the Houston game, and it wasn't really snow, but it was sleet, rain, whatever in that game, cold as shit. And then they played in this game that was snowing and windy and blizzard-like conditions and stuff. It isn't going to be that way in San Francisco. Now, I don't know what the weather's going to be. It could certainly rain there, and it could certainly be windy there. But at the same time, as all of that being said, I think you're going to see a little better offensive performance. I think 2 weeks will give them some study time and some plays they can run and some different things. So I think they'll be a little better offensively. That all being said, I don't know how they match up yet. I don't think they match up that well. I think one of the things that I'm going to say is overrated that people in New England aren't going to like, maybe even Jeff might not. I think your cornerback Gonzalez that everybody thinks is the greatest guy in the world. I think he's way overrated, and I think he can get beat. I don't think I heard him talking on TV last night about and Jigba and Gonzalez, this is gonna be great. No, it's not. I think Njigba is gonna destroy him. They're gonna have to do other things but that's just my opinion. Just watching them play. So that's just my thought. I think that as this game kind of plays out in my head, and New England's going to need to put pressure on the quarterback, which they've been able to do to a certain degree. They're going to need to put pressure on the quarterback, but the pressure that wasn't there from Seattle will be there in this game. So it's going to be interesting to see how it all plays out and where it goes. I didn't mind the look ahead number was, I think, 3.5. I think it opened 4.5. It got up to 5.5 in some places. It depends on what books you're looking at. I think it's settled still 4.5, 5 right now in different places. So, no need to go out and go crazy with it right this minute. And then the total wise, look, one of the things that intrigued me about the New England Denver game and being under is you got really, really good defenses. And all of the, shouldn't say all of them, generally all these NFL teams that made the playoffs have been really, really good on defense. They haven't necessarily been really, really good on offense. So now you're going to have New England, who over the last, say, 6 to 8 games has been playing best defense, and Seattle, who's been like the best defense. So, my first impression is to look under, but because all the defense. But this again, you got to look at matchups. You got to do all this stuff. You got 2 weeks. Certain guys may come back and be healthy that haven't been, and they're going to play in this game that haven't played in a while. So I don't know. I'm not worried about it at this point. I'm more worried about at this point, where Zach Gallen's going to sign or where Framber Valdez is going to sign and stuff like that, and how that adjusts baseball for the next 2 weeks anyway, until the Super Bowl comes out. A lot of work to get involved in there. So yeah, that's kind of where my head's at this point.
Yeah, a lot to take in. There'll be a lot of hype throughout the next 2 weeks, of course. Let's see, Richard. Hope we hear from both of you next Monday, a week before. Yes, we'll be on throughout the next 2 weeks, Richard. So turn on your notifications. We'll be here to break down that. We'll be talking a lot of baseball as well. So, a warm weather. I'm not comparing Stafford to Drake May, but we've seen what May can do this year. His long ball touch, his precision. They're going to have to keep him upright. What he does very simply is they keep the corner guys wide, and he steps up. So Seattle will have a guy underneath. He was able to take off and run. The Patriots don't have a Puka Nacua. They don't have a Devontae Adams. They have serviceable pieces: Stephon Diggs, Pop Douglas, Kyle Williams. They have pieces: Hunter Henry, a two-headed monster. They're going to need Stevenson and Henderson in this Super Bowl here. What was leaking oil for the Pats for a while late this year is special teams. It wasn't as bad as the Rams, but you can't be given, free lanes to Rashid here to break off any big plays. So we'll be breaking it all down. It's going to be fun for sure. Let's transition to baseball. Nothing over the weekend. I saw Kalshi, 99% Framber to the Orioles over the weekend. We did have Yu Darvish initially saying he's retiring, and then that was rebutted real quick with his $43 million here. And I guess he was trying to say he needs to rehab and see. So I don't know where that's going. Give us your thoughts over the weekend for some baseball.
Yeah, I thought there was a couple of weird things. I have this stuff pulled up over here. Jose Ramirez signing with the Cleveland, I think, is a big deal. I don't really think people know how good he is. He's one of the best players in Major League Baseball, top 5. I mean, he might not be top 2, but he's top 5 in Major League Baseball, and has been for years and years and years and years and years. And now he's signed with Cleveland now forever. He loves that town. They love him. So okay, whatever. You sign for whatever and be happy. So I thought that was interesting. There was We talked about the McKinsey. Did we talk about McKinsey Gore trade or no? I thought we talked about that. That might have been where we left off on Friday. Um, I think that positions Texas very, very good in terms of their lineup and that projection wins wise to this point puts them ahead of Houston. So that doesn't make them as good as Seattle, but it puts them in the running for hey, we're kind of up there. So I thought some of that stuff was interesting. I think when I saw Craig Kimbrell got signed again, whatever. I think that's who cares, those kinds of things. Framber Valdez to Baltimore is something Baltimore 100% has to have. Because if you go and say, okay, well, I didn't get Framber, now I'm going to sign, what's the guy's name from Arizona?
Zach Gallen.
Zach Gallen. I kept wanting to say Greinke. I'm like, that's not Zach Greinke. So Zach Gallen, you're going to sign Zach Gallen. Look, that's not what you need. That they got Zach Gallen type guys. You know what I mean? Like that's what they have. So they need a guy that can be at the top, and that's what Framber does. So if they get there, if they can get that guy, I thought that would be a great move for them. I see all these tweets from the Boston area about Eugenio Suarez going to Boston. That's no signed, sealed, delivered thing. Eugenio Suarez, I think, has more of a chance to go elsewhere than he does to go to Boston. And I think that doesn't mean he won't. I just think that's kind of where I'm reading it. So I'm not so sure that, Boston's not done theoretically. They can't be done. They need another bat. I don't know if they don't get Eugenio Suarez, I don't know what they're going to do. So they're going to need something to maybe trade or do something to get somebody because they need another bat. So I think Eugenio Suarez is out there. Now, I've been trying to put stuff together and in my head start thinking about some different things. And here's one I want you to think about because this is one I came up with. It has nothing to do with anything. It's just a match. So you have the San Francisco Giants out here, right? And the Giants, this is what if I go and look at, let me pull up the Giants for a second. This is Giants. That's the AL West, NL West. If I go pull up the Giants, this is what they look like. They're going to have a catcher that's a defensive guy. His name's Bailey. So you got Patrick Bailey. You got Devers at first base. And you got Casey Schmidt at second base, whatever. He's not the greatest guy either. Then you got Willie Adames. Now, Willie Adames was first year there last year. I think he probably has a little bit of a bounce back, probably more comfortable, plays a little better. So he's going to have a little better. Then you got Matt Chapman. All right, so now you've kind of got, okay, we've got two guys that can kind of hit, maybe three. And then you've got Heliot Ramos, who kind of stood out a little bit last year, had good spots, but he's not a superstar. He's just going to be a decent guy. He's going to play left field. Jung Hoo Lee is going to get on base, pretty good contact hitter, whatever. It has a little pop, but he's going to play center field. And then in right field, you got, Drew Gilbert and Louis Matos. Drew Gilbert's kind of a bring-up guy. So and then at DH, they've got Bryce Eldridge, who's a call-up guy, and he was hurt and stuff. They don't have anybody. Hey, Profit Margin, how you doing? So here's where I thought one of the things that would be interesting, because if you think about and you go look at what this team's if I pull it up and look at it by roster resource on the Giants, and I say what's their lineup look like? It's Jung Hoo Lee, Willie Adames, Rafael Devers, Matt Chapman, and then Heliot Ramos. Okay, it's not terrible. Top four guys are halfway decent, but then they die. Ramos, Eldridge, Schmidt, Bailey, nothing, and they don't have a designated hitter. So I started thinking about how does this work, and theoretically who is available out there. And if I go pull up free agents, and I go down here and the designated hitter DH, why don't you just go sign Marcell Ozuna? He fits. He would fit that lineup in a sense that he could bat behind Chapman in front of Ramo or whatever, and that gives them length. And you got to remember that he's going to strike out some or whatever, but you're getting him to hit home runs and doubles and stuff. You're getting him to be a bat, and now you got a right-handed bat, and Devers is a left-handed bat, and you got Chapman and Dom. I think it could fit there. Maybe you might disagree, but I think it would fit there, and I think it would knock out some of the youthful kind of bull crap they're trying to do, because this is a team that's going to struggle against the good teams in the National League.
I mean, National League West. I mean, you're looking up at the Dodgers, and again, I think it's tough for most of baseball, but especially that division where a team like the Padres, who went all in for a couple of years, now they're kind of hand-struck. They lost most of their pitching. They have some chips. You could dangle Tatis out there. They're not going to, but my point is you could dangle Tatis out there. Obviously, their biggest chip in my mind is Mason Miller. I mean, if you can't get to him, what good is he? I mean, the guy's electric. So maybe that's a all-star deal / trade deadline. We know the Rockies will be the Rockies, and then also Arizona in limbo. That's why, again, I think that they were dangling Ketel Marte during the free agency just to get a temperature, maybe to see what his value was again, maybe again at the All-Star break or something. Because again, I'm not going to be the wet blanket all year. I want people to understand that. I'm not the wet blanket. Me and Scotty eat, sleep, drink, shit baseball. We love baseball. We could talk baseball around the clock. But the reality is December 5th, the lights go off and the door gets locked. That's the reality, especially with the fact when the owners are saying, hey, we're going all in for a cap and a floor and all this other stuff because of what the Dodgers are doing. And that's not going to take a couple of weeks or a couple of months. Okay? So some of these teams stuck in limbo, Scott, might not be willing to say, hey, let's push all in and then reset. They might begin the reset this year, knowing that in 2027, the whole structure could be changed.
Yeah, who knows? Every season has a life of its own, and every season in baseball, has whatever. But the truth of the matter is, and I'll just say it this way, the truth of the matter is there are power teams that spend the money and compete every single year. And then there are teams that can sort of go mask whatever it is that they're trying to do and stuff like that all down the road. So I think the San Francisco Giants are a team that has money and can spend it. They just haven't. And whatever it is, what it is, that's kind of a weird thing. I think there's a disconnect somewhere of what they're going to do and what the ownership says and all that stuff. Whatever it is, what it is, what it is. Yeah, if you don't want to compete with the Dodgers, then don't. Like we talked about before, I don't think you have to compete with the Dodgers. You just have to get into the tournament. You have to be one of the best teams at the end. So all you gotta do is compete with the Brewers, for God's sakes. You know what I mean? Like that's what you're doing. You're competing with the Brewers and the guys in the National League East that don't make it, whether that be the Phillies or the Mets or the Braves or somebody. You got to be. You're competing with those teams if you're not going to compete with the Dodgers, and I get it. So as you're doing all these different things and you're doing your stuff, you can be competitive with those teams and where they are and the money they spend and that kind of stuff. Profit margin. Hey, how you doing? And he comes back and says, look, trying to teach you guys how to use these AI programs, and I'm going to tell you, I'm not necessarily 100% best at this, because it's all kind of new to everybody, but I've been using it. I've been using it a lot. And the number one thing I'm going to tell you is you need to provide it with information, or tell it where to go find the information, or fine tune everything. Don't tell it, hey, what's the number one bet of this game going to be? Don't ask it that, because it's going to come back and tell you, based off of what it did its research on and where the bets are and stuff. It's this one. Or don't tell it to predict the score of a game, because it's going to sit there and make up whatever it thinks it needs to do in a certain way. It depends on what it's even looking at. But if you fine tune the data and information, like so my routine is this. I get it. I tell them what our record is. I call it our record because it helps me to decipher this stuff. Because I can sit here and go through this data with the EPA, just like I do with games on paper and stuff. There's NFL stuff for that, and come up with, okay, well, this is going to happen. This is going to happen, and manually do all of that. Well, if I give it to the AI computer, it goes through it quicker than I can do it, obviously, deeper than what I can do it, and match it up a little bit. So we're going to come out with a similar conclusion. But if I then go, I want to add DVOA on top of the EPA advanced data and stuff. Now, in my mind, I got to go find the DVOA data, then I got to put it on top of that and fine tune it. Now, the more data you give it, the better it's going to come out. So I do this, right? I give it the EPA and I do all these different things. And then I give it DVOA data and information. Perfect. Starts to come on top of that. And then there might be a couple of Twitter things that come across. Well, this situation requires this requires that. I plug some of that stuff into it just to give it not a curveball, but a generalized bigger feel of what's going on. I ask it about to predict where the line's going to move to, that kind of stuff. What does the betting action look like, right? I do all of these things to finally then come out and go, hey, we've done a lot of different data points on this thing. We've got a kind of a rounded picture. We look at injuries, we look at weather, we do all this stuff. Now, I want a prediction score, and it'll come back and give you a predicted score. And then I want to know what your confidence level is. So if I give it a confidence rating, and I don't think I have that right here with me right this second. If I give it a confidence rating, tell it to tell me what the confidence level is at the beginning, when I just have one data point, it comes back and says, well, I got a pretty good confidence of like 65% that this is going to happen. Well, then you add the DVOA, you add this, you add this, you add this, you add this. It's up to 75, 77, 78, 8, because the data keeps adding. And when you get into those brackets, you can have total confidence in making your wager on what amounts to bet. So you can sit there and go, man, this is 75%, 80% that this is going to happen. And if it's 75, 80% it's going to happen, you're going to throw some money on it. So if it's only 50% it's going to happen, you're not going to bet it at all. So those are the things that I'm trying to help you guys kind of figure out is, you got to give it information. You got to fine tune a lot of things. And I'm a data guy. So I want it to do logical data analysis, and I don't want it to be, and the reason I use specific functions like advanced data and stuff is they're predictive. You can use that to help you with predictions. I want it to be predictive. I don't care what the average yards per carry are. I don't give a shit, right? But none of that matters. That's just an afterthought stat. So I want to give it the best updated information I can so I can get the best updated interpretation back. So I am finding myself analyzing the games and then trying to figure out if I'm matching with my computer. If I'm matching with my computer, I'm betting like crazy. If I'm not matching, which sometimes happens, I'm pushing back. You can ask questions. You can push back and go, well, I don't understand why you did this because that doesn't make any sense because X, Y, Z, and whatever. And make it tell you things, because sometimes it's going to read information that you thought you knew or missed altogether, and it isn't right. So I found that to be the case too sometimes. Or sometimes I'll push back and I'll push back hard and he'll change his mind. I've seen that. So my point being is that it's a negotiation. It's a great tool if you can figure out how to do it. I think I've had great success with football. My numbers have been 60% or better in both college football and in NFL. Excited. Like, I use so much advanced data. Now, you guys, for some of you who've been around, I do this for baseball, and this is how it all started. But I do this for baseball. And, I used to write magazines and do all kinds of stuff for baseball. So I don't know if I'm going to do that because nobody reads them. So anyway, the point being is some of this stuff is all of these different things. Prophet X asked me about NBA and hoops. Look, man, I wish I could do that stuff. I made 100 basketball bets last year. I can't stand the sport. I don't like the bets. I don't like basketball. Jeff can help you with basketball. I'm kind of in a point now where I got one more game and I'm not betting again until World Baseball Classic. Won't mean I won't be on here talking about baseball and stuff. And there's a lot of prep. Like I do months and months and months of prep for baseball. I'm already doing prep for baseball. So anyway, food for thought about the AI and the computer and stuff. I'm so glad that you used it. I'm so glad that you said that you put in a new thing right before the game about the weather and it came up with a different score and you were able to make your bet perfect.
I want to give some shout outs, of course, here. And I am, here we go. Shout out, of course, to Richard Populus. Go Huskies, go. Not just the men, the women as well this year. Two good teams. The men, Richard, I watched them Saturday against Nova, hard fought win. This team that you're watching right now won't be the same team that you're seeing in the Big East. And of course, hopefully a big run in the tournament. Shout out to Debbie Garland, of course. Shout out to Profit Margin. Shout out to PB, Dr. Lance, Mr. Lucky, and everyone. Keep an eye on my timeline and Scotty's for updated schedules. I'm going to talk after the show what we want to do the rest of this week as we get 2 weeks till the Super Bowl. We'll be breaking that down, talking props. Of course, Scotty Will and I will be talking baseball as well. So for myself, Jeff Dawson at EC Sports Investor, one and only Scotty Webb at Webby20MLB. Wish everyone a blessed day. Everyone locally, take it a little easy out there. Still expecting a couple more inches of snow. Let the plows, let everyone do their stuff. And I guess there's another storm coming this weekend. Yeehaw. Enjoy yourselves and stay tuned.